the multidisciplinary universities and learning was in practice in the ancient India. Due to colonization and introduction of Western-centric education, as Dr. Anish is also focusing, this approach over time was forgotten. We are also partially responsible for this current state of education in India, as we took over 7 decades post-independence to transform our education system. And in this regard, NEP 2020 is aspirational and most ambitious education policy since India's independence. Now the question among stakeholders, including myself, I should say, especially among higher education institutions, is how do we transform our current higher education institutions to a multidisciplinary higher education institutions, and how do we approach this multidisciplinary learning pedagogies? And I'm very sure we can't have a better speakers than Professor Suresh Kumar and Dr. Goyal for today's webinar. Let me speak a few words about our 2 esteemed speakers. Professor E. Suresh Kumar is currently the Vice Chancellor of the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. Professor has vast teaching and administrative experience in Osmania University. He has published several books and research articles. He has guided several students in the field of English language education. Professor Suresh has served as the Registrar of Osmania University for 2 years. He also held several positions in Osmania University as Professor of English, Director of District PG College, Director of Regional Center for Urban and Environmental Studies, was Dean College Development Council. He was Head Department of English, and he was Director English Language Training Center. These are just a few of the positions that he has held during the past years. And Professor Suresh has also visited several countries and universities to impart training and to share his knowledge. Some of the countries that he has visited is United States, UK, France, Germany, Switzerland, Belgium, Thailand, and many more countries. I don't see that he has not visited any continent, and he has visited most of the acclaimed universities across the globe. Sir, I, on behalf of the Vidya Bharati, welcome you for this webinar. And we have one more eminent speaker of the day is Professor Yugna Goyal. Professor Goyal is Associate Professor of Economics and Assistant Dean of Research at Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities. He has an engineering degree from National Institute of Technology in Surat in India, and joint doctorate from Erasmus University, Rotterdam University, University of Bologna, and University of Hamburg. For both his master's and PhD, he was the Erasmus Mundus Fellow. He is the founding faculty member of O.P. Jindal Global Institution of Eminence, deemed to be university. He has been the Assistant Dean for Research and International Collaboration, both in its law school as well as in the School of Humanities. He enjoys doing interdisciplinary research. I'm very sure his expertise and experience will definitely throw some light on interdisciplinary approaches. Dr. Goyal has taught in visiting capacity at IIM Ahmedabad, Flame University, and has been the docent at the Harvard Law School's Institute for Global Law and Policy. He offers research advisory to organizations and government departments on public policy, regulatory and higher education. He is on the governing council of the Indian School of Public Policy and on the boards of emerging technology startups in India. Sir, on behalf of Vidya Bharati and myself, I welcome you for today's webinar. Sir, we have been discussing a lot on the multidisciplinary approach and how do we transform the multidisciplinary current higher education institution to multidisciplinary higher education institution. Most of us or all of us are very convinced about the policy and the vision of the NEP 2020. Now the challenge is, how do we transform? how do we transit from the current situation to the proposed situation. My team member, Dr. Anish, has already put across 20 minutes each speakers will speak and rest we will reserve for the question and answer session. To start with, I request Professor Suresh Kumar sir to speak about to share his thoughts on the subject. Thank you, sir, and over to you, sir.
Namaskar to all of you. A very good morning to all of you. Shri Raghunandan ji, Dr. Anish, Dr. Padmavati, Dr. Yugang Goyal, distinguished academicians, administrators, faculty members, students, invitees, ladies and gentlemen, Namaskar to all of you. At the outset, I would like to congratulate our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, for bringing out National Education Policy 2020. I also congratulate our Honorable Minister for Education, Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank ji, Chairman and members of the Draft Committee of NEP for their visionary outlook in framing India's new education policy. The policy is designed to help India take off into a new and glorious future as a world player in every field, be it economic, social, political, or strategic. Before I share my views on NEP 2020, I would like to throw some light on the present situation. So far, in the Indian context, the education system has been focusing on theoretical knowledge with lesser emphasis on skills. A lot of emphasis is laid on rote learning and scoring more marks. If you look at some of the +2 colleges, especially in Telangana state, in Andhra Pradesh, in some of the states, it is spreading actually. The +2 colleges have turned out to be, I'm sorry to use this expression, air-conditioned poultry farms. The main aim in their life is to score 99% or 100%. God knows what will happen after one gets 100% marks. And someone joins the college with a body weight of 50 kgs, then he or she will put on 20 to 30 kgs. Body weight increases by 20 to 30 kgs, and marks would increase from 60% to 90%. And when that person comes out, you ask that person, who is your chief minister, who is your prime minister, then he can't even understand what you are asking. He would only say, in what way am I concerned? You ask him what is the weather and what is the temperature. He would again ask you, he or she would ask you, why are you asking me these questions? You ask me anything from my subjects. My subjects are maths, physics, chemistry. You ask me, I'll answer. And they think that you pose a question, then you prepare answer. And life is not so. Life is not just based on questions and answers. Life requires understanding of life, understanding of your environment, and what is happening around you. That's much more important. And also, any education system should bring in some kind of inquisitiveness, a quest for knowledge. And then when you are required to do something, then you should be in a position to do. Unfortunately, our education system so far has been focusing on more marks, score more marks, and the parents are also concerned. The parents go to the principal of the college and complain, you know, my son, my daughter has got only 85%. My neighbor's child has got 90%. That becomes the biggest complaint. Though it might sound repetition to some of those who attended some of the sessions on NEP 2020, I would like to repeat the anecdote to drive home the point, to give you the difference between knowledge and skill. A few years ago, a friend of mine, who is an automobile engineer, was riding on his scooter. The scooter stopped midway. And he was an expert in automobile engineering. He authored several books on automobile engineering. And he tried to open whether there was some problem with the spark plug, whether there was some problem with some connections. He checked everything, but he couldn't start the scooter. Then he called the mechanic. The mechanic said, I'm very busy, sir. I can't come, but I can send my assistant. 13 or 14-year-old illiterate boy reached that place, and this man said, I'm an MTech PhD in automobile engineering. You are only an illiterate boy. I couldn't start it. What can you do? Then the boy said, sir, please give me an opportunity to check what is the problem. The boy tried to kickstart the scooter once. With one kickstart, he said, sir, there is no petrol in your scooter. He could diagnose this problem. He could diagnose the problem from the sound and the smell that came from that scooter. What that illiterate boy has is immense skill, whereas this a friend of mine who is MTech.
सीताराम दास आप म्यूट कर लीजिए.
What my friend has one, he has got qualification, MTech PhD. Number two, he has got a lot of knowledge, but unfortunately, he doesn't have the skill of repairing the scooter. What this illiterate boy has is skill, but he doesn't have the knowledge. The new education policy is focusing on both knowledge and skill. This really will help in creating people with a lot of knowledge and skill, and we can be an asset to the nation. That's the basic idea of new education policy. All of us say that India is fortunate that it has got people who are youngsters, more number of youngsters. Just because someone is a youngster, is it enough? Or if this person becomes a liability, then the society will say, why do we need these youngsters? They are of no use. They should become an asset to the nation. When is this possible? It's possible only when we focus on knowledge and skill. NEP 2020 has focused more on that. As all of you are aware, many MTechs, MAds, MBAs are applying for the post of a police constable. I'm not undermining the post of a police constable, but it doesn't require an MBA or MTech. Moreover, a police constable requires certain type of skills, and an MTech or MAd or MBA may not have those skills. In other words, so far, the present situation, the present education system has been creating graduates, postgraduates, doctoral degree holders with lesser emphasis on life and their career. The new education policy, which is multi-dimensional and multidisciplinary, and it's going to give holistic education. That's the beauty of new education policy. I'm sure all of you have gone through the NEP document. There is a mention of integration of arts and humanities with science, technology, and engineering, and mathematics, popularly known as STEM. When it comes through, I assure you that we are going to have wonderful graduates who would come out of the colleges and universities who will be a great asset to our nation. In addition to acquiring qualifications, we also require the job skills. The job skills which will really help the person to do the job. We have seen doctors who are very good as doctors, but when it comes to talking to the patient, they really don't know how to talk. Because in medicine, there is no focus on communication. The focus is on only medication, surgery, and other things, but not on communication. If you add communication, if you add some languages to the medical profession, sky is the limit. Like this, multidisciplinary education will definitely bring in a lot of change in our society. Right now, our education system is like single lane road. It's one-way traffic. Once you get into one system, you go on continuing in the same lane. The new education policy has given a 4-lane road or a multi-lane road wherein one can shift from one to the other, one can take multiple subjects in one go, and this will really help them come up in their lives very well. If you look at other countries, in some of the developed countries, they have got an education system wherein the student has the choice to choose his or her own subjects. When it is successful there, it will be highly successful in India because Indians have got a different set of skills and knowledge. I happened to go to America a few years ago, and I was supposed to pay $125 as a registration fee. I gave that person 2 notes of $100. He was supposed to return me $75, but he gave me more. Then I told him, you don't have to give me these many dollars back to me. You are supposed to return only $75. Then that man said, no, don't confuse me. And he opened his calculator, and he was not able to calculate well. I just gave him $200. He has to take $125 and return the remaining change. But just for that small calculation, he used calculator, he called somebody, he was discussing with him, and finally he gave me my change. After the conference was over, in the tea break, I interacted with that person and I asked him his background and so on. I came to know that he was a monolingual. He speaks only English and he doesn't know any other language. Through new education policy, we are going to have students who will know at least 3 languages, and it will be more than 3 because foreign languages are also will be introduced, which means when we learn more than 1 language, especially when you learn more than 3 languages, your skills would increase and your capacity to understand things, problem solving skills, all these things will be helpful. And this will really bring in a lot of change. For example, as you are aware, most of us are talking about what is there in NEP, but more interesting part is how to implement it. Luckily, I have been the chairperson of one committee that looks after multidisciplinary education in terms of implementation. There are about 6 to 7 committee members who are vice chancellors, directors of NITs, IITs, and so on. And we have developed the recommendations, and very shortly we're going to submit the recommendations. I can gladly tell you that flexible curricular structures will enable creative combinations of discipline for study and would offer multiple entry and exit points, thus removing currently prevalent rigid boundaries and creating new possibilities for lifelong learning at graduate level, master's level, doctoral level, and so on in multidisciplinary universities. Departments such as languages, literature, music, philosophy, Indology, art, dance, theater, education, mathematics, statistics, pure and applied sciences, sociology, economics, sports, translation, interpretation, and other such subjects needed for multidisciplinary stimulating Indian education and environment will be established and strengthened at all higher education institutes. Credits will be given in all bachelor's degree programs for these subjects if they are pursued from such departments or through ODL mode when they are not offered in class at their respective institution. The new education policy aims at developing all capacities of human beings such as intellectual, aesthetic, social, physical, emotional, and moral in an integrated manner through multidisciplinary education. Great initiatives such as Make in India, Digital India, Skill India, and Startup India have been initiated with an aim to produce entrepreneurs and increase job opportunities. In the absence of a well-defined education policy, these novel nation building missions would face the scarcity of talented pool of qualified professionals. NEP 2020, with its focus on multidisciplinary education, will certainly create a balanced personality. One of the main aims of NEP is to encourage job providers and bring in dignity of labor. To attain the global standards in quality multidisciplinary education, the government is going to set up MERUs, which are multidisciplinary education and research universities, on par with IITs and IIMs. This futuristic plan will help in placing Indian universities among the world's best universities in the years to come. This is the right decision at the right time. There will be more focus on interdisciplinary research and innovation through startup incubation centers.
Suresh Kumar, Vice Chancellor, EFLU. EFLU.
Centers in frontier areas of research, and the students have to utilize this great opportunity to the best of their abilities. These initiatives will help the students in general and the country in particular. As part of holistic education, students at all higher education institutes will be provided with opportunities for internships with local industry, business houses, and such research internship will really help the students in settling down well in their life. The NEP will provide liberal but specialized, regular but customized innovations from primary to higher education by incorporating research components at both the levels. One of the beautiful features of NEP 2020 is the use of regional languages as a medium of instruction. This will really help the student to grow from different points of view. This will really help in cognitive flexibility, which will be an added advantage for the students. With little support, I'm sure many Indian youth can be converted from job seekers to job providers. To conclude, I can proudly say that NEP 2020 will certainly help human development and sustainable progress of the Indian society. Finally, I congratulate Vidya Bharati for organizing my NEP to bring in awareness on the National Education Policy 2020. I take this opportunity to thank Shri Raghunandan ji and all others concerned for giving me an opportunity to interact with you all this morning. Namaskar. Thank you.
Sir, thank you so much for sharing your views on multidisciplinary education. You have given us an overview of what the policy is about to achieve. Sir, now I request Dr. Goyal sir to share his views. And in my opinion, Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities is one of the private schools, higher education institutions in India, which has adopted this multidisciplinary approach to learning to a certain level. So your knowledge sharing and expertise in setting up this school will definitely add some value to our stakeholders who are in the process of implementing this multidisciplinary education now. Thank you, sir, and over to you, sir.
So before Dr. Yvonne Goyal speaks, let me give one observation. Someone is switching on the voice. They are disturbing actually. Some people are speaking. It might disturb him too. You please request all of them, or you can mute from your end. That would be better. Except active speakers, please mute all of them. There is some disturbance. Yeah, please look into it.
To switch off their speakers, mute their speakers. And hopefully we are going to hear you undisturbed, sir. Over to you, Dr. Goyal, sir.
Thank you so much. A very warm good morning to everyone. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद पद्मावती जी, आपने इस इंट्रोडक्शन के लिए, और मेरा खास तौर पर आभार है रघुनंदन जी के लिए, अनीश जी के लिए, सुधाकर जी के लिए. And it was absolutely delightful to hear Professor Suresh, speak about, and I think after this amazing, reflection that he has on interdisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity, there is very little that I have to add, but I will still give it a try. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मुझे ये अवसर देने के लिए. मैं अपनी बात दो कहानियों से शुरू करूंगा, और इन्हीं कहानियों में कुछ ऐसे पॉइंट्स निकलेंगे जिनको फिर बाद में थोड़ा सा विस्तार करूंगा, और आशा करता हूं कि क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर राउंड में there are more conversations and discussions that can go on exactly on the idea of multidisciplinarity and holistic education, which NEP has a very बहुत ही emphatically उन्होंने उसको present किया है. So the first example comes from this scholar called Diego Gambetta. So Professor Diego Gambetta is a sociologist in Oxford University, और सन 2009 या 2010 में उन्होंने अपने एक LSE के कलीग स्टीफन हर्टॉग के साथ एक यूरोपियन जर्नल ऑफ सोशियोलॉजी में एक पेपर लिखा था, जो कि बाद में एक पुस्तक भी बना, जिस पुस्तक का नाम था इंजीनियर्स ऑफ जिहाद. और एक बड़े मजे का इन्होंने एक अध्ययन किया और रिसर्च किया, और उसका परिणाम कुछ ऐसा निकला. इन्होंने पिछले कई सालों में जितने भी इस्लामिक टेररिज्म के अटैक्स हुए थे दुनिया में, उन सभी टेररिस्ट की एक सूची बनाई और उनकी एजुकेशनल बैकग्राउंड को स्टडी करना शुरू किया. इनकी लिस्ट धीरे धीरे बढ़ती गई. ये काम कई सालों से चल रहा था, और पहले 200 थे, फिर 300 हुए, फिर अंत में आके करीब करीब 400 इस्लामिक टेररिस्ट, मोस्ट ऑफ देम वर मिडिल ईस्टर्न टेररिस्ट, जिन्होंने कई जगह पर बॉम्बिंग में उनका इन्वॉल्वमेंट रहा था, बाली से लेकर यूएस तक, 9/11 का फॉर एग्जाम्पल. और इन सभी लोगों की एजुकेशनल बैकग्राउंड को जब उन्होंने देखा, तो उस पर उन्होंने बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग 2-3 चीजें नोट करी, और वो चीजें मैं आपको थोड़ा बताना चाहता हूँ. तो वन ऑफ द इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग्स दे नोटेड इज कि करीब 20% उन लोगों में, उन इस्लामिक टेररिस्ट में इंजीनियर्स थे. 20% की इंजीनियरिंग डिग्री थी. जब उन्होंने सिर्फ उन टेररिस्ट को देखा जिन्होंने कुछ ना कुछ पढ़ाई करी हुई थी, यानी कि अनपढ़ टेररिस्ट को हटा दिया, तो वो संख्या 20 से बढ़कर 44% हो गई. और इन देशों में जहां पर ये लोग आए थे, वहां पर इंजीनियर जो बनते थे एज अ परसेंटेज ऑफ टोटल पॉपुलेशन, वो करीब 3% थे, 3.5%. और एजुकेटेड टेररिस्ट जहां से आए थे, वहां पर अराउंड 18% इंजीनियर्स थे. इसके ऊपर कुछ स्टैटिस्टिकल रिग्रेशन किया गया, और उन्होंने ये कंक्लूजन निकाला. एंड मैं खुद इंजीनियर हूं, इसलिए मैं इस बात को बहुत ही गंभीरता से लेता हूं. उनका निष्कर्ष ये था, द कंक्लूजन दे रीच वाज दैट द लाइक्लीहुड ऑफ अ टेररिस्ट, द लाइक्लीहुड ऑफ समवन हु इज डन इंजीनियरिंग टू बिकम अ टेररिस्ट इज 3 to 4 times higher than someone who has not done engineering. इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि जो इंजीनियरिंग करते हैं वो टेररिस्ट बन जाते हैं, वो आतंकवादी बन जाते हैं. उसका मतलब ये नहीं है. मैथमेटिकली दिस मीन्स वेरी डिफरेंट. दिस मीन्स, आई एम रिपीटिंग दिस अगेन, the likelihood that an engineer will become a terrorist is 3 to 4 times higher than the likelihood that a non-engineer will become a terrorist. So ये relative grade पे it's a mathematical statement. इस किताब ने और इस पेपर ने पूरी दुनिया में हलचल मचा दी. ये आप कैसे कह सकते हैं? ये तो बहुत ही बड़ा एक अपवाद शुरू हो जाएगा. इंजीनियर तो इस देश के भावी नागरिक हैं, और मैं खुद एक इंजीनियर हूं. तो जब मैंने पढ़ा था तो मुझे भी काफी आश्चर्य लगा. उसके बाद जब पुस्तक पढ़ी और पेपर पढ़ा, तो उसमें गम्बेटा और हर्टॉग ने बहुत ही अच्छी तरीके से ये समझाया है कि ऐसा क्यों होता है कि देयर इज अ कोरिलेशन बिटवीन इंजीनियरिंग डिग्री एंड फंडामेंटल इस्लामिक टेररिज्म. उन्होंने सिर्फ इस्लामिक टेररिज्म को देखा था, उन्होंने दे डिड नॉट सी एनीथिंग एल्स. और उन्होंने पाया कि इंजीनियरिंग डिग्री क्रिएट्स अ माइंडसेट, दिस माइंडसेट ऑफ अ यस और अ नो आंसर, क्लियर आंसर्स as opposed to ambiguous answers. So you have a sharp mind, and then you have an acceptance of a world जहां पर black और white में आप चीजों को देख सकें. तो जब आपका लेंस दुनिया को देखने का black और white हो जाता है, तब आप कोई ना कोई साइड चूज कर फंडामेंटलिस्ट बन सकते हैं. और इस फंडामेंटलिज्म के पीछे ये कारण नहीं था कि इंजीनियर्स बॉम्ब बना सकते हैं इसलिए वो इंजीनियर्स टेररिज्म की तरफ प्रेरित हों, बल्कि ये कारण था कि जिस तरीके से इंजीनियरिंग एजुकेशन पूरी दुनिया में प्रचलित है या पढ़ाई जाती है, वो एक किस्म का लेंस देती है, एक किस्म का फ्रेमवर्क देती है. उस फ्रेमवर्क को समझने के लिए, उस फ्रेमवर्क के थ्रू अगर वो दुनिया को देखें, इफ दे लुक एट द वर्ल्ड थ्रू दैट फ्रेमवर्क, दे रियलाइज दैट क्वेश्चंस हैव टू बी आंसर्ड इन अ यस और अ नो और इन अ बाइनरी फॉर्मेट. the interesting thing is, the world is not like that. The world has evolved in a very, very diverse manner. इस कहानी को मैं यहाँ पर विराम देकर दूसरी कहानी को बताता हूँ और फिर इन दोनों कहानियों को मैं जोड़ूं। दूसरी कहानी भी मैं भारत के बाहर से ही उठाऊंगा और देखूंगा इन दोनों कहानियों में भारत के लिए क्या लर्निंग्स हो सकती हैं। The second story comes from Europe, and this is a very famous case called Lozzi versus Italy in the European Court of Human Rights in 2011. तो लॉत्सी नाम की एक फिनलैंड की एक फिनिश लेडी, शी वाज एन इटालियन सिटीजन। उसके बच्चे को जब स्कूल में भेजना शुरू किया तो उसने पाया कि उसके स्कूल में कक्षा में एक क्रॉस लगा हुआ है दीवार पर। there's a cross of Jesus Christ in the classroom. Now she was a member of some sort of an ethical association of atheism, और उसे ये लगा कि this goes against her ideals of secularism. तो उसने अनाउंस किया कि ये तो आपका सेक्युलरिस्ट फिलॉसफी के विरुद्ध जा रहा है, इसलिए आपको ये क्रॉस हटाना चाहिए। जब बात बढ़ी तो उसने कोर्ट में केस दायर किया। लोकल कोर्ट में जब केस आया तो उस कोर्ट में जजेस ने बोला कि ये जो क्रॉस है इसके मायने सबके लिए अलग हैं, हमारे लिए इसके मायने आर मोर कल्चरल दैन रिलीजियस, दे एक्सप्लेन आवर शेयर्ड वैल्यू सिस्टम, and of course the shared value system of Italy comes from the values of Christianity, and therefore it is not propagation of Christianity, it is about reflecting our shared value system. Case हारने के बाद Lozzi took it to the supreme, I mean the chief, I forget the name of the court, but the highest court in Italy, और उन्होंने भी कुछ ऐसी ही बात रखी। इस बात से तंग होकर ये केस यूरोपियन कोर्ट ऑफ ह्यूमन राइट्स पहुंच गया। यूरोपियन कोर्ट ऑफ ह्यूमन राइट्स में इस बात की समीक्षा हुई और जजेस ने साफ साफ कहा कि ये केस दिस वायलेट्स द सेक्युलर कैरेक्टर ऑफ एंड द यूरोपियन कन्वेंशन ऑन ह्यूमन राइट्स, particularly Article 2 of the first protocol of the convention, and plurality of crucifix meaning. क्रूसिफिक्स के कई मतलब हो सकते हैं, लेकिन रिलीजियस मीनिंग जो है उसका वो बहुत प्रेडोमिनेंट है, और इसलिए किसी भी पब्लिक स्कूल को क्रूसिफिक्स को अपनी कक्षा में लगाने की इजाजत नहीं है। इस बात से कई देश यूरोप के थोड़े से परेशान हो गए, क्योंकि वेस्टर्न यूरोप में तो नहीं बट ईस्टर्न यूरोप में कई देश इस तरह के सिंबल्स को अपनी कक्षाओं में स्कूलों में लगाते थे। उन्होंने फिर ग्रैंड चेंबर ऑफ द यूरोपियन कोर्ट ऑफ ह्यूमन राइट्स पे अपील किया, और वहां के जजेस ने कहा कि ये हम नहीं डिसाइड कर सकते, ये वाला काम मेंबर स्टेट्स का है। वेदर द क्रॉस एक्ट्स एज अ रिलीजियस सिंबल और नॉट, वेदर इट एंगेजेस इन propagating a particular religion is not a matter that can be decided by a European Court of Human Rights, but has to be decided by the respective member states, and it depends on the specific history, the shared history of the member states through which they want to take this decision. बेल्जियम में फॉर एग्जाम्पल, बेल्जियम में किसी भी कक्षा में क्रॉस नहीं है। ईस्टर्न यूरोप में लाटविया, लिथुएनिया, इटली में स्कूलों में क्रॉस होता है, और सभी का अपना एक ट्रैजेक्टरी है। ऑल कल्चर्स हैव गॉन थ्रू अ सर्टेन ट्रैजेक्टरी, सो इट इज अप टू देम, एंड देयरफॉर इट इज नॉट अ वायलेशन ऑफ रिलीजियस फ्रीडम और सेक्युलरिज्म। अब ये दो कहानी मैंने आपको क्यों बताई, मैं इन दोनों कहानियों को जोड़ना चाहता हूं, and this is how I try to connect this with the conversation we are having today. जब एजुकेशन यूनिडायरेक्शनल और यूनिलीनियर होता है, जैसे इंजीनियरिंग का एजुकेशन, तो वो आपको बहुत अलग अलग किस्म के ज्ञान से काट देता है। It cuts you from various types of sources of knowledge, and what it actually gives you without you knowing, it gives you a framework, a lens to look at the world, and that is the only lens you use to look at the world. दुख का विषय ये है, दुर्भाग्य ये है कि इस तरह के जो एक यूनिलीनियर डायरेक्शन से एक ही डिसिप्लिन में पढ़ाई करते हैं या पढ़ाते हैं, वो एक ही लेंस से दुनिया को देख पाते हैं, और वो अलग अलग किस्म के ज्ञान के प्रकाश से वंचित रह जाते हैं। So what this does is this converts into cultivating individuals who are not holistic. This is the first example. The second example, जहां पर आप इंटरप्रिटेशन बहुत ज्यादा कर लेते हैं, इतना ज्यादा किसी एक पर्टिकुलर फील्ड में, which is religion and law, that you forget what your community wants, what your community expects, what your community's shared values are, तब भी आप एक then also you get misdirected and move into a direction where you get yourself cut off from the community. तो disciplinary engagements of education के दो नुकसान होते हैं. पहला, it cuts you from various lenses, it cuts you from knowledge, and it also cuts you from community. बड़ी मजे की बात देखिए, हमारे समाज में हम जितना ज्यादा पढ़ लेते हैं, हम उतना ही अपने कम्युनिटी से कट जाते हैं. जो जितना ज्यादा पढ़ाई कर लेता है, जो जितना ज्यादा elite बन जाता है, so to speak, going to Western universities and so on and so forth, these guys become far more separated from their grandparents, from their community, the childhood friends who they used to play with. भाषा ही नहीं समझ में आता. जिसने 2-3 PhD कर ली हैं, वो तो शायद बात ही नहीं कर सकता. और ये इतना बड़ा दुर्भाग्य है कि एजुकेशन का पर्पस होना चाहिए समाज से जोड़ना, अलग अलग किस्म के विचार और विचारों के प्रकाश से जोड़ना, और वही एजुकेशन इज डूइंग एग्जैक्टली द ऑपोजिट. जो उसका मेन मकसद होना चाहिए, वही एग्जैक्टली उसके अलावा वो सब कुछ करता है. इसमें भारत अभी थोड़ा सा बचा हुआ है, ऐसा मेरा मानना है. और उसका बहुत ही आसान सा जवाब ये है कि हमारे यहाँ पर भले ही एजुकेशन बहुत डिसिप्लिनरी रही है, ये समाज इतना विविधताओं का से भरा हुआ है. the world is so full of diversity and plurality in India कि कोई भी व्यक्ति जब भी वो किसी कॉलेज या स्कूल में जाता है, उसका there is a high level of interaction the student has with so many different kinds of thoughts. But ये अभी कम हो रहा है. जितना ज्यादा मैं देख रहा हूँ यूनिवर्सिटी स्पेसेस में, जितनी ज्यादा डिसिप्लिनरी एजुकेशन चल रही है, उतना ही वर्ल्ड व्यू संकुचित होता जा रहा है. और इस बात का इसी वजह से नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में पर्टिकुलरली पैराग्राफ्स 11.1 से 11.7 तक स्पेसिफिकली जो होलिस्टिक एजुकेशन की बात हुई है, वो बहुत सराहनीय है. 4 या 5 साल पहले आई डिड अ स्टडी ऑफ 70 इंडियन यूनिवर्सिटीज, सेंट्रल एंड स्टेट, और मैंने उनकी वेबसाइट्स पर जाकर देखा कि कितने डिग्री प्रोग्राम्स मल्टी डिसिप्लिनरी हैं. Actually, multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary, they both mean different things, but for the purposes of this conversation, I will assume that they're both the same thing because they both kind of feed off each other. तो interdisciplinary ढूंढने के लिए मैंने 70 कॉलेजेस की वेबसाइट ढूंढी, यूनिवर्सिटीज की. Sadly, unfortunately, most universities don't even maintain their websites enough so that we get to know what's going on in those universities. 5 साल पहले की बात है, 90% से ज्यादा कोर्सेज डिसिप्लिनरी कोर्सेज थे, इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी नहीं थे. Around 8.9% interdisciplinary courses मिले. When I looked at the number of students who are enrolled, it was 5% of the total enrollment. इस बात को इसलिए जानने की ज्यादा जरूरत है क्योंकि मैं आपको एक ग्राफ दिखाना चाहता हूं, and that is and for that I will have to share the screen, and I think I have the permission. This is the graph of what you call as Google Ngram. Google Ngram एक पर्टिकुलर स्ट्रिंग, कोई भी इंग्लिश वर्ड को पिछले 200 साल में पुस्तकों में कितनी बार वो शब्दों का चयन हुआ है, शब्दों का इस्तेमाल, उस शब्द को कितनी बार छापा गया है, इस बात का फ्रीक्वेंसी मैप करता है ओवर द 200 years. इट्स अ वेरी वेरी पावरफुल टूल. तो जैसे इस वाले स्क्रीन में जो आपको दिख रहा है, आप देख पा रहे होंगे कि एक सेकेंड, हाँ, इसमें मैं इसको सबको मिटा देता हूँ. अगर मैं देखूं कि लिबरल आर्ट्स पिछले करीब 200 सालों में कितनी बार मैप हुआ है पुस्तकों में, तो आप देखेंगे लिबरल आर्ट्स का थोड़ा सा डिक्लाइन हुआ, फिर बाय 1920 सडनली वो राइज हो गया. दिस इज एग्जैक्टली व्हाट हैपेंड इन द यूएस. दिस इज एक्चुअली वेरी मच एन अमेरिकन इमेजिनेशन. लिबरल आर्ट्स टुडे इज वेरी अमेरिकन इन दैट सेंस. ऊपर गया और उसके बाद फिर से वापस नीचे आया. इसके साथ अगर मैं इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी डाल देता हूं, तो इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी शब्द को पुस्तक इस फ्रीक्वेंसी से यूज किया गया है. और फाइनली अगर मैं मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी डालूं, कि इतना ज्यादा यूज हुआ है, तो मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी और इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी लिबरल आर्ट्स से ज्यादा यूज हुए हैं शब्द. मतलब इनका टाइम हैज कम दैट मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी एंगेजमेंट्स हैव टू बी लुक्ड एट वेरी सीरियसली, बट वी आर नॉट डूइंग इट मच इन इंडिया. और मुझे लगता है एनईपी के माध्यम से ये बदलाव का समय बहुत अच्छा है. अंत में मैं कुछ आइडियाज देना चाहूंगा और मे बी दे विल एक्ट एज द स्टार्टिंग ऑफ इट विल ट्रिगर सम कॉन्वर्सेशन at least in terms of how can presently existing universities encourage multidisciplinary thinking. हम समाज और ज्ञान से कटे नहीं बल्कि विस्तार हो, उसके कुछ और many of these examples I have tried myself and therefore I think they can work better if they can be expanded across all universities in India. सबसे पहला इसमें इम्पोर्टेंट सजेशन रहेगा मेरा कि हम लोग फैकल्टी मेंबर्स का चयन बहुत सोच समझ के करें. हम फैकल्टी मेंबर्स का जो रिक्रूटमेंट पॉलिसीज अभी यूनिवर्सिटीज में है उसके लिए एक बहुत मेजर ओवरहॉल की जरूरत है. वी नीड टू एंश्योर दैट द फैकल्टी मेंबर्स आर चोजन बेस्ड ऑन द टाइप एंड क्वालिटी ऑफ देयर टीचिंग एंड देयर रिसर्च एंड दिस शुड टेक प्लेस एट द फैकल्टी लेवल रादर देन द लीडरशिप लेवल. तो फैकल्टी मेंबर्स ही चयन करें कि किस नए फैकल्टी को उनकी फील्ड में आने के लिए अच्छा रहेगा. इसमें भी इफ वी कैन फाइंड आउट फैकल्टी मेंबर्स हु हैव मिक्स्ड डिग्रीज, जिन्होंने दो अलग अलग किस्म की डिग्रीज करी हुई हैं, इट विल एनकरेज दिस थिंकिंग. और इसका तीसरा पहलू कि हम लोग लॉ डिपार्टमेंट में इकोनॉमिक्स, हम लोग एंथ्रोपोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट में लीगल हिस्टोरियन को लेकर आए, हम लोग हिस्ट्री डिपार्टमेंट में फिलोसफर्स लेकर आए, फिलोसफी डिपार्टमेंट में मैथमेटिशियंस लेकर आए. इन डिपार्टमेंट्स में अलग अलग डिसिप्लिन के लोगों को लेकर आए एंड देन गिविंग देम द ऑटोनॉमी टू टीच द कोर्सेज दे वांट टू टीच. दिस ऑटोनॉमी इज क्रूशियल टू क्रिएट मल्टीडिसिप्लिनैरिटी. उसके लिए उनको फ्रेमवर्क्स दिए जा सकते हैं, लेकिन उसके बाद उनको चयन करना है कि वो क्या करना चाहते हैं. अपने मैथ्स की क्लास में वो फिलोसफी पढ़ाना चाहते हैं नहीं चाहते. इसका एक चौथा तरीका हो सकता है कि दो अलग अलग प्रोफेसर्स अलग अलग डिसिप्लिन के एक क्लास में बैठ के वाद विवाद करें. ऐसा वाद विवाद जिससे बच्चों को एक प्रेरणा मिले. एक हिस्टोरियन और एक सोशियोलॉजिस्ट दोनों आकर आतंकवाद के ऊपर बात कर रहे हैं फॉर एग्जाम्पल. का उसकी basically the knowledge will be beyond its limits. इन फैकल्टी मेंबर्स को जो प्रोफेसर्स और फैकल्टी मेंबर्स अलग अलग डिसिप्लिन को ऑफिस में एक इकोनॉमिस्ट बैठे और एक पॉलिटिकल या एक लिटरेचर के व्यक्ति बैठे और एक मैथमेटिशियन बैठे. जब ये दोनों साथ ऑफिस शेयर करेंगे तो अपने आप विचारों का आदान प्रदान बहुत होगा और ये क्लास में जाएगा, ये उनकी रिसर्च में जाएगा. मल्टीडिसिप्लिनैरिटी का एक बहुत बड़ा पहलू है कि फैकल्टी मेंबर्स साथ में रिसर्च करें जो अलग अलग डिसिप्लिन से आते हैं. तो एक एग्रीकल्चर इकोनॉमिस्ट सोशियोलॉजिस्ट एक साथ में रिसर्च पब्लिश करते हैं या एक किताब लिखते हैं फॉर एग्जांपल. फैकल्टी सेमिनार्स आयोजन किया जाए जिसमें सभी फैकल्टी अपने कलीग के रिसर्च को सुनने के लिए जाए, चाहे रिसर्च
Dr. Goyal, sir?
I think there is some network.
Dr. Anish, yeah, there seems to be some technical glitches.
Yeah.
I'm so
Sir
sorry.
is back. Sorry, sir is back.
But
Yes,
I think
yes.
I did anyway because I would really like to give the chance for question and answer round. But जाने से पहले बस दो और तीन options और बता सकते हैं, मतलब बताना चाहूँगा, which is cross-listed courses. We should encourage students to study courses. In fact, not just encourage, perhaps make it mandatory for students to study courses that lie outside their majors or outside their primary source of degree. तो इंजीनियर्स को सोशियोलॉजी और इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ाने के लिए प्रेरित किया जाए और उसके क्रेडिट्स दिए जाए. वी शुड एनकरेज देम टू लर्न डिफरेंट लैंग्वेजेस एंड वी शुड वेलकम नॉन ट्रेडिशनल सब्जेक्ट्स. इसके लिए लीडरशिप ऑफ द इंस्टीट्यूशन, यूनिवर्सिटी लीडरशिप इन फॉर्म ऑफ वाइस चांसलर्स और डीन्स, दे हैव टू बी रियली विजनरी एंड एक्सट्रीमली ओपन माइंडेड. और एक बहुत मजे का एक अच्छा तरीका ये है कि हम रिसर्च और ग्रास रूट शुरू कर दें. ग्रास रूट्स पर जो भी रिसर्च होगी उसमें इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी एंगेजमेंट्स आएंगी ही आएंगी. आप किसी भी ग्रास रूट की रिसर्च को एक पर्टिकुलर डिसिप्लिनरी लेंस के थ्रू नहीं देख सकते हैं. और फाइनली वी मस्ट क्रिएट रिसर्च सेंटर्स दैट आर एरिया स्टडी सेंटर्स. तो रिसर्च सेंटर ऑन हिमालयन स्टडी फॉर एग्जांपल, हिमालयन स्टडीज में रिसर्च सेंटर ऑन फॉरेस्ट्री फॉर एग्जांपल, रिसर्च सेंटर. तो जितने ज्यादा रिसर्च सेंटर ऑन लॉ एंड इकोनॉमिक्स, ये जितने ज्यादा डाइवर्स डिसिप्लिन के होंगे तो फैकल्टी मेंबर्स को ट्विन हायरिंग दी जाए, hiring in a department as well as in a research center. And therefore, and we should celebrate publications and courses which are not following the standard paradigm of disciplinary engagements. तो जो जितने ज्यादा multidisciplinary courses पढ़ाएगा उनका सम्मान किया जाए, उनको चैंपियन बनाया जाए. सीनियर फैकल्टी मेंबर्स, जूनियर फैकल्टी मेंबर्स को यही आचरण बताएं. जाने से पहले लास्ट बात जो मैं बोलना चाहूंगा, स्टेम डिसिप्लिन्स अब स्टीम डिसिप्लिन बन चुके हैं. So it's not just science, technology, engineering and mathematics. It's science, technology, engineering, arts and mathematics. And I think that is the way to go. अपनी बात को यही विराम देना चाहूंगा. एक बार फिर से धन्यवाद आप सभी का. क्षमा चाहता हूं मैंने थोड़ा ज्यादा समय लिया, लेकिन आई एम लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू द क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर्स एंड आई होप एनईपी के आने से ये आपकी हमारे देश में we can actually justify why higher education institutions exist to the youth of this country. धन्यवाद.
Thank you, Dr. Goyal, sir. I must admit that I thoroughly enjoyed both the speakers' viewpoints. And I must admit that I'm a victim of pre-NEP era education because I couldn't learn Hindi as much as you both spoke. So I am definitely going to make an attempt now, probably under NEP or otherwise also. Because somewhere I feel that I'm deprived in understanding certain things that when it is said in Hindi. Thank you so much for both the speakers. We will now open the session for question and answers from the audience, from the participants. And participants can actually share their questions on the chat box. And we will read it out for both the speakers. And Doctor, I think I have the access to the chat questions. Dr. Anish. Sir, I have the access to the chat questions, I suppose.
Do you have access? I think you have access.
Yeah. And I'm yet to receive questions on the chat box. As I wait for the questions to come in, sir, I have a personal question. There are a lot of colleges, higher education institutions who are already running this arts, science, and commerce stream at undergraduate level. And there is some sort of an understanding that, okay, I now teach the subject, like, give a mix of art subject, science subject, and commerce subject, and that is multidisciplinary. That is the notion that higher education institutions are holding. But going by what Professor Suresh sir as well as Dr. Goyal sir said, that is not the approach of the multidisciplinary education. Multidisciplinary education basically talks about perspective and holistic education. So what is your suggestion or advice to those higher education institutions which are thinking just mix up the disciplines and offer a course? How do they do that, sir? What should be the focus of those higher education institutions? Sir, I request Suresh sir and to share his views, as well as Dr. Goyal sir to share his views.
So when we talk about multidisciplinary education, it doesn't mean 2 courses will be offered simultaneously, 3 courses will be offered simultaneously. It doesn't end there. It's integration is required. It's not that they are simply available and you do whatever you want. When you give that kind of environment, the student would end up using some easy subject, and then he or she will pass and go away. That's not our idea. Our idea is to create a situation wherein holistic development of the student will take place. It should be all-round development of the character, personality, and the understanding of the person. And we are looking for producing a responsible citizen who will develop agricultural knowledge, who will have understanding of life and surroundings, and he will know a little about many things and he will focus on 1 or 2 areas so that he or she will be readily employable, or he or she can become an entrepreneur or can pursue higher education in any country comfortably without much difference. For example, when Indians complete their post-graduation in India, they go to the US for higher education. Again, they pursue masters, which means that they are considered PG course as equivalent to undergraduate course. The reason is simple. We are not giving the scope for understanding various subjects in one go. We are only creating silos, isolated boxes. Instead of that, if you say you're a graduate and postgraduate, you should be acceptable by any other one or readily acceptable by any industry or organization, and you should be useful for the society. That's the idea. And the University Grants Commission has constituted various committees to draft guidelines for implementation of NEP 2020. In my talk, I already mentioned that I am chairing one of the committees. It's on multidisciplinary higher education. Our recommendations will be submitted to UGC soon. It will come back to the universities and colleges in the form of guidelines, so that the state governments and the stakeholders, universities, can adopt them and get the best out of that. Thank you.
So I will, of course, agree with Professor Suresh on this. My take on this is also in addition that I think exposing students to different disciplines, let's say an art student is exposed to science disciplines and vice versa, is of course going to be beneficial, even though it is not truly interdisciplinary in its scope and nature. So this is how you define interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary. A multidisciplinary education is in which two different people from different disciplines work together. In an interdisciplinary approach, they use the tools of each other's disciplines also. And so that becomes really a far more engaging and a pervasive exercise. There is also a term called transdisciplinary, in which the academics and non-academics work together. And I think it's a mix of all of them that will elevate the status of our higher education in the direction that NEP is proposing. और मुझे लगता है कि कई बार ऐसा होता है कि अलग-अलग किस्म के subjects या these when we study the different subjects, they don't talk to each other. And one way to do it is to create these teaching assistants or research associates within these subjects who are able to take tutorials of the students and then bring an idea from a different subject. Sociology में हमने ये पढ़ा था, इसको आइए apply करते हैं economics में कैसा रहेगा. So these smaller groups of tutorial sessions can greatly enhance the type of experience that students have, even if they have that type of experience, in which faculty members from other disciplines are coming and teaching to them. One good way is कि जिसने sociology पढ़ा है, उसको economics के department में hire किया जाए. That would be a very good way to move ahead, for example, rather than उसको उसी department में sociologist is hired in sociology department and then asked to come to economics faculty to teach. उसका hiring ही अगर economics department में होगा, so higher level of integration हो सकता है. And I think part of the reason why this is why it's important for me to mention is because interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary have to be research based exercises and not just teaching based. So yeah.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we have a couple of questions here. One, Ms. Neha says that there are 64 colors and multidisciplinary, which is already mentioned in the NEP document as well. Her challenge is how do we visualize this? And I think more or less we already answered this question. So I will, I'm hope Ms. Neha is convinced with the answers given by both the speakers. And one more question is how 21st century skills and needs of education and industry 4 can be approached with this multidisciplinary education. And the policy itself has given certain scope to impart 21st century skills, integrate these skills with the education system. But still, I invite the speakers to add on to this question, sir. The question is, how do we integrate these 21st century skills and the needs of Industry 4?
Most of the senior teachers belong to 20th century. They received their education in 20th century, and then they are required to meet the demands of the 21st century students. The teachers should change their mindset first. Their mindset should be based on the demands, requirements of 21st century students. That's very important. Mindset. The mindset of students also should be changed from a mere attending college or university to please parents, to please some siblings, or because of some various reasons. They should come out of that. They should try to develop on their own. In other words, developing individuality from dependence to independence, depending on parents, depending on others, to becoming independent. When one becomes independent in terms of academics, in terms of economic affairs, then there is going to be change of mindset in the individual. Then what is the industry looking forward to? The industry can hire about 1,000 people or 100 people, depending upon the size of the company. If they have to appoint 100 people and there are 10,000 people who are looking forward for employment, who are those persons, who are those 100 people who will get placement? The company will look forward to people who think out of box, people who are problem solvers rather than problem givers. And they look forward to people who can solve things in just like that, in a jiffy. If we teach problem solving skills, cognitive skills, and analytical skills to our students, as Dr. Yogank rightly mentioned, there should be a balance of different subjects in an individual. If one focuses on one area and he says he doesn't know the other area, then it's of no use. If the NEP is taken in the right spirit and used in the right spirit by the colleges and universities, certainly the 21st century demands and challenges will be faced boldly and successfully. Thank you. And as I mentioned already, University Grants Commission is already coming forward with recommendations. They are taking care of all the things from different points of view. And Vidya Bharati has taken up the challenge of really forging hands with the government in helping the society in understanding and bringing in awareness. And it will go a long way, because there were some kind of miscommunication. There was some kind of misunderstanding about NEP. People thought something else would come out, and luckily the NEP 2020 turned out to be a panacea for many ailments. And when we implement it in the true spirit, certainly it will yield good results. Thank you.
So if I have to answer this question, what are the attributes that an employer of 21st century looks for a new employee, right? And it'll be interesting for us to just put down these attributes and see where they're coming from. So some of the attributes that I think are very important, and I meet CEOs of various companies very regularly, and the tide has really turned. They are now looking for writing and communication. They're looking for logical and critical thinking skills. They're looking for skills that relate to, debating and arguing in a manner which comes from, persuasive logic rather than, shouting at the top of your lungs, for instance. They're really looking for value and character-based leadership. And these things really cannot come from one single discipline alone. In fact, it's amazing how much the CEOs now want people to be able to solve problems, and these problems will never lie in the same discipline. I have a list of some people whose names you will probably recognize. Jeff Bezos, Oracle's Larry Ellison, Mark Zuckerberg, Walt Disney's Eisner, Procter & Gamble's A.G. Lafley, eBay Cup, Pierre Omidyar, George Bush, Hillary Clinton, Condoleezza Rice, all of these had a liberal arts education. Now, in fact, in Silicon Valley right now, in addition to the coders, the high quality coders, one of the most coveted profession is that of ethicists and philosophers, because they have to figure out how do we code the value judgments in the machines. If a self-driven car has to, if the collision is inevitable, the car has to decide who to kill, the man on the right or the woman on the left. And this decision cannot come from coders alone. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that really what we need for the 21st century is this idea of creativity, so that we know how to learn something rather than learning something. By the time you enter the college so you enter the college now, and by the time you graduate, a number of jobs would have changed by then. Nai kisam ki, new ways of jobs, new types of jobs will come, old jobs will go away. And then you are again, hanging out and figuring out what do you do? Because engineers are no longer as useful. Maybe they need to do something else. Maybe they need to go through another training, perhaps online. So really the 21st century education is about opening the mind to learn how to learn. Because if you learn how to learn, then you can learn anything at any point of time. And future is about learning. There will be a constant learning. Gone are the days when you would study something and your entire career throughout your 30, 40 years of career will be based on the subject you learned. It's an unusual thing in the future. And in that sense, it is not just the multidisciplinary education or interdisciplinary education is going to add value. It is the only thing that can add value. And to draw a very interesting analogy that just came to my mind, you have to look at multidisciplinary education as an Indian thali with so many sabzis and achar and katoris in the same plate. This is really the type of mind that employers are looking for, so that you are able to navigate between disciplines swiftly and not stuck with mere paas to bas yahi sabzi hai, main to ye khaunga. या इसी का टेस्ट पता है, मुझे बाकी टेस्ट पता ही नहीं. And so that is how where the future, and not just in India, around the world.
Question. I have a dilemma and I want to share with you. This driverless cars are coming, and a lot of research is happening across the world. And now the car has to decide whether to kill the woman on the right or the man on the left. Sir, my perspective is, if the car can stop there and let the woman and men cross the road, that would be the very humanitarian approach to the driverless cars. This is my admission, sir.
Of course.
Now,
Indeed.
So now I'll come to the question. The question asked by Sri Lakshmi is whether both UG and PG students could do projects in interdisciplinary subjects under eminent faculties of such subjects. Is there that scope under the NEP is her question.
Did you say projects?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It says whether the UG students and PG students could do projects in interdisciplinary subjects under eminent faculties of respective subjects.
Yes, that's correct. There is a possibility, yes.
And one question, probably this is also sort of a statement from Srinivas. He says, till now, below 50% of teachers are qualified in every state. For new system, how do we recruit skilled faculty? Does NEP address this capacity building of faculty, and what should the higher education institutions do to recruit teachers who have these skills and capabilities? What are the strategies, sir?
No, NEP has talked about what kind of faculty will be hired and how best they should be, and their requirements. It's not simple in the sense through NEP, the recruitment process will be much more creative, and useful people will be because the person who is appointed will have to deal with 21st century challenges. Therefore, the guidelines will be suitably amended. Maybe I can't say yes, but I say it's possible. It's very much possible, because certainly if you have to recruit people to deal with the more challenging environment, certainly the teachers also should be of that level. Thank you.
So my submission to this question, which is a very important and pertinent point, is very simple. I think the university leadership is largely responsible for this. In my own experience of traveling around the country in all kinds of various universities, I have realized that when the leadership opens up the doors for talented individuals, and recruitment process is streamlined, that looks only at the merit, and then the university professor who's recruited is given autonomy, good people come. So really it becomes at the heart of the matter. The question is about whether we will give autonomy to our teachers or not in doing their research and teaching. And one of the reasons why autonomy question still eludes is because we think autonomy comes without accountability. Of course not. There has to be an accountability. But autonomy and accountability together, whenever they have gone hand in hand, it has only flourished higher education institution. In this, one of the most important aspects is that of how do you recruit a faculty. So you do a very rigorous selection mechanism, the one that is followed perhaps in IIM Ahmedabad, or for that matter in any other good institution around the world. Let that process be adopted by all universities, and once the recruitment is done, then so recruitment is so difficult that only good people get in. But once good people come in, you let them be free. Once they are free, they will create ideas. I mean, the whole idea of knowledge to be free is exactly this. And so, the question, it's absolutely right. We have very little, the quality of faculty is rather mediocre in many of our Indian institutions. And the answer to this is not, and multidisciplinarity will not be able to flourish if faculty is not good. So therefore, the first step, and which is in the points that I mentioned, the first step to open up multidisciplinary lenses or streams of thought is to open up your own space for talented, inspiring young minds to come to the educational institution, and they will come if you give them freedom. And so that is my my short response to that.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is a question from Upendra, Dr. Upendra. This question is particularly to Professor Suresh, sir. He actually has acknowledged and appreciated your views, and he has given you a mandate, I should say. He says, at this juncture, I would humbly request your expertise to state your opinion on introducing language and literature, for instance, in the courses such as applied sciences or engineering sciences at graduate level. And what would you suggest to frame relatively a better curriculum to integrate these two disciplines?
Yeah, that's the basic idea of NEP 2020. When we say integration of arts and humanities with STEM, it only means that we are going to have, for example, a science college is there. Science college will also have the option of using subjects from arts, such as language or literature. Even a science college will have language or literature, or a language university like mine, which specializes in English and foreign languages, will have option for other subjects. That's the idea of NEP. But it may not be possible overnight. It might take 1 year, it might take 10 years, it might take 20 years. But there is a beginning for this. And from next academic year, all these things are going to be possible. They will be initiated. And to achieve full success or to achieve complete results, it might take about 10 years and more than that. We don't know. But certainly it's possible, and that's the idea of NEP 2020.
Can I perhaps also add one line to this, if I may?
Please, sir, please.
I strongly think, and I've been thinking about it for a while, writing a little bit, is that we need to inculcate the art of reading our own texts. It's very unfortunate that a civilization of, that spans more than 4,000, 5,000 years, unbroken, this is the only civilization that was hardly broken in between for a long period of time, it's impossible that such a civilization would not have produced, great works of art and literature. And it is unfortunate that end up reading, and it is great to read Western classics, classical literature. But you know, reading Shakespeare by school students in India is almost like reading Premchand by British students in UK, right? And if that troubles us, then there is a strong need by not just the language and literature, but also by rightly mentioned by Dr. Upendra, that applied science engineering students, there could be tutorials and seminars done on how do you read Indian text. The problem is social sciences often do not read Indian texts. They interpret Indian texts. And reading is a very simple exercise. For this, sometimes you may not even need to know the language. Very good type of translation should at least allow you to access your own heritage in that sense. And that, I think, is the need of the hour, particularly important for liberal arts and holistic education.
Thank you, sir. I think there's one more last question. The question says, makes a reference to your statement that, engineers are, tilted towards terrorism. So going by the same statement, the participant is asking, does really liberal arts education humanize the individuals? Is that the holistic and multidisciplinary education is the only way we address what is happening at the global level or at the national and regional level, especially the terrorism and other unethical conduct of humans? Is it what we are looking at towards through multidisciplinary education? So this is a concluding question. I request both the speakers to answer this question. Professor Suresh, sir?
Yeah, I would request Dr. Yuvan Goyal to answer this.
Yes.
Well, being an engineer myself, maybe I can take a stab at this question. So first of all, let me rephrase. And this is a very mathematical statement that I'm making. It's not that engineers are tilted more towards terrorism. Mathematically, the idea is the likelihood of an engineer turning to terrorist organization will be higher compared to likelihood of a non-engineer, purely based on data. Now, I strongly believe that a lot of it has to do with the type of education. And I will tell you from my own personal experience, because I did engineering. And after that, I did my master's in law and economics, later on my PhD in law and economics. So I have moved across discipline from engineering to non-engineering. And it's not that I myself had this idea of becoming a terrorist and later on decided not to be one. But the interesting thing is I could see what type of lens the education gives you. And education doesn't necessarily mean that it comes from classroom alone. It's basically your exposure, your worldview, how it gets developed. And if you look at it closely, the idea of engineering education, let me not talk about engineering. The idea of liberal arts education is rooted to create, confluence of science and humanities, to rethink anthropology, to create diversity and plurality, to help us understand civilization. Look at the body and not just the mind. Allow us access to experiential learning. Allow us to confront our own privilege. It allows us to see the place of our grandparents. It allows us an empathy of the worldview of the other person. I mean, this, in my view, ought to be what a good liberal arts education like. It is another thing that many times liberal arts education does not achieve, this purpose. But deep down, that's how liberal arts have to be looked at. They develop intellectual curiosity. They develop a cultural consciousness. They cultivate empathy. They build a strong character, and they develop eloquent expression, articulation. They instill free thinking. They open up the mind. So anyone with these attributes is, of course, going to be less likely to resort to fundamentalism. Human beings, our evolution through thousands of years as Homo sapiens did not take place through competition. It really happened through cooperation. If we had not cooperated, we would be pretty much like any other animal, And in that sense, it's important for us to alloy this technical knowledge, so to speak, or this unidisciplinary knowledge with all kinds of different other worldviews to make us feel, to allow us to be able to recognize our grandmother's stories. The day we start liking our grandmother's stories, that's the day that we are not going to resort to fundamentalism, isn't it? And that is a crucial pivot around which a good liberal arts education must be based on.
Sir, thank you so much Suresh sir, would you like to add to this one or?
No, please.
Thank you, sir. In a nutshell, actually, this multidisciplinary and holistic education is aiming at not only giving the education and knowledge of different disciplines, but also looks at broadening the perspectives and horizons of students. Subjects should not be taught in silos, but it has to be taught in a multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary pedagogic approaches. And quality of teachers matters a lot when it comes to learning through multidisciplinary approach. And with these few words, I hand over this to Dr. Anish to conclude the session. Thank you, sirs.
थैंक यू मैम। हमारे आज के सेशन की सबसे खास बात यह रही कि हमें न केवल एनईपी के होलिस्टिक और मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी एस्पेक्ट को गहराई से समझने का मौका मिला, बल्कि इसके इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के बहुत सारे सजेशन भी हमें मिले। इस मायने में सेशन जितना आम लोगों के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है, उससे ज्यादा शिक्षण संस्थानों के, एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस के एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स और टीचिंग फैकल्टी के लिए आई थिंक इट्स वेरी यूजफुल। इसी के साथ मुझे एक एक्सपीरियंस अपना दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी का याद आता है। जब मैंने पढ़ाना शुरू किया कि दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी में इस तरह के बहुत सारे चेंजेस हुए, हालांकि मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी वाला थोड़ा सा पोर्शन बहुत बाद में आया, कि इन 2009 व्हेन आई जॉइन, उस समय एनुअल मोड एजुकेशन होता था और विद इन 1 ईयर 2010 दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी इम्प्लीमेंटेड सेमेस्टर सिस्टम, एंड next year in 2011 we implemented FIUP, 4-year undergraduate program, and after 3 years we revoked 4-year undergraduate program and we moved back to semester system again. In 2015 we implemented CBCS pattern of education, and in 2019 we implemented LOCF, learning outcome based studies. And now we are going to implement this new education policy. तो इस पूरे पीरियड के अंदर हम लोग बहुत चेंज ही चेंज देखते रहे हर बार, लेकिन हमेशा एक चीज नोटिस की कि सिलेबस में और कैरिकुलम में कोई खास चेंज नहीं हुआ। उन्हीं चीजों को इधर से उधर कर देते थे और कोई खास बदलाव होता नहीं था। काफी लोगों के मन में ये एप्रीहेंशन है कि हम न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में क्या एक्स्ट्रा कर रहे हैं, और ये इसी बात से हमें शायद थोड़ा पता चल रहा है कि हम न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी पर, नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी 2020 पर इतना डिस्कशन करके उसे इम्प्लीमेंट करने जा रहे हैं। और जितने भी मैंने आपको इम्प्लीमेंटेशन दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी में बताया, वो विद इन 6 months, विद इन 3 months वी डिसाइडेड कि वी आर मूविंग टू CBCS, वी मूव। विद इन 6 months वी डिसाइडेड कि वी वांट टू इम्प्लीमेंट FIUP, वी इम्प्लीमेंटेड। तो बिना डिस्कशन के जब भी चीजें शुरू होती हैं तो काफी प्रॉब्लम आती हैं, और हम बहुत लकी हैं कि हमें इस वेबिनार सीरीज में इस तरह के इतने अच्छे अच्छे स्पीकर मिले जिन्हें काफी इन डेप्थ नॉलेज है। एक और चीज मैं डिस्कस करना चाहता था कि दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी का एक और एक्सपीरियंस, सॉरी एक्चुअली आई एम इन दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी, सो दैट्स व्हाई अ लॉट ऑफ एक्सपीरियंसेस आर कमिंग फ्रॉम देयर, कि CBCS इंप्लीमेंट करने के बाद व्हाट आई फेल्ट कि आई एम टीचिंग इकोनॉमिक्स इन कॉमर्स डिपार्टमेंट। कॉमर्स डिपार्टमेंट में जेनरिक पेपर ऑफर किया गया, और आई थिंक इट्स सेम एवरीवेयर कि जेनरिक पेपर्स आर बीइंग ऑफर्ड बाय वन डिपार्टमेंट and the students of same department cannot take these courses, and other department students are expected to take this course. तो कॉमर्स अगर एक कोर्स ऑफर कर रहा है तो कॉमर्स के स्टूडेंट उसे ऑप्ट नहीं करेगा, बाकी सभी कोर्सेज के स्टूडेंट उसे ऑप्ट करेंगे। सो समहाउ दिस इज आल्सो मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी अप्रोच। कॉमर्स डिपार्टमेंट ने जो फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर में कोर्स ऑफर किया, दैट वाज माइक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स। इंटरेस्टिंगली दिस कोर्स वाज टेकन बाय इकोनॉमिक्स ऑनर्स स्टूडेंट्स एंड बिजनेस इकोनॉमिक्स स्टूडेंट्स। In second semester, we offered macroeconomics. That was also taken by only these 2 students. थर्ड सेमेस्टर में हमने इंडियन इकोनॉमी ऑफर किया, तब भी इन्हीं सभी स्टूडेंट्स ने इसे ऑप्ट किया। फोर्थ सेमेस्टर में वी ऑफर्ड स्टैटिस्टिक्स, सेम टाइप ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स ऑप्टेड दिस कोर्स। इंटरेस्टिंगली एक तरफ वो जेनरिक में ये सब कोर्स पढ़ रहे थे, उनके कोर कोर्स में भी सेम पेपर सेम सेमेस्टर में हुआ करते थे। तो सेम माइक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स वो जेनरिक में पढ़ रहे थे, सेम माइक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स वाज देयर कोर पेपर, सो इट वाज सम काइंड ऑफ रिपीटिशन। तो ये हमारे लिए एक बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज होगा कि हम इस सब तरह के रिपीटिशंस कि बच्चे इस तरह का ना करें, अदरवाइज वो 4 कोर्स उनके लिए बिल्कुल बेकार रहे। कि इस न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में, नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में इस तरह के प्रोविजंस लाएं कि इस तरह के रिपीटिशन ना हो पाए। एक चैलेंज मुझे और लगता है कि जो हमें देखना पड़ेगा इसमें कि कई बार बहुत सारे कोर्सेज डिफरेंट कोर्स के बच्चे ले लेते हैं। इकोनॉमिक्स के कोर्स को अगर संस्कृत के स्टूडेंट ने ले लिया, हिंदी के स्टूडेंट ने ले लिया, मैथ के स्टूडेंट ने ले लिया और कॉमर्स के स्टूडेंट ने ले लिया, उस डाइवर्स क्लास को हम एक ही क्लासरूम में पढ़ाएं या उनके लिए अलग अलग सेक्शन बनाएं, ये सब काफी चैलेंज रहेंगे। क्योंकि हम लोग जब CBCS में पढ़ा रहे थे तो ये सब चैलेंजेस हमें फेस करने पड़ रहे थे। और ये बहुत खुशी की बात है कि वी आर वेरी ग्रेटफुल टू आवर स्पीकर्स कि उन्होंने बहुत गहराई से काफी सारे इन सब मुद्दों पर, जहां लोगों को चैलेंज महसूस होते हैं, उन सब चीजों पर गहराई से चीजों को बताया। और सुरेश सर ने हमें इस न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी की क्यों जरूरत थी, स्पेशली मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी और होलिस्टिक एजुकेशन की, उसको बहुत अच्छे से बताया। और योगांश सर ने उसे कैसे और अच्छे से इम्प्लीमेंट किया जा सकता है उसके बारे में बहुत अच्छे व्यूज दिए। हम इनके काफी आभारी हैं कि दे स्पेयर्ड देयर प्रीशियस टाइम फॉर अस। और आज के कार्यक्रम की मॉडरेटर पद्मावती मैम, वी आर वेरी थैंकफुल टू हर, जिन्होंने अपनी भूमिका को बहुत बखूबी निभाया। सो थैंक्स मैम। हम विद्या भारती उच्च शिक्षण संस्थान के ऑर्गेनाइजिंग सेक्रेटरी माननीय प्रकाश जी एवं जॉइंट ऑर्गेनाइजिंग सेक्रेटरी माननीय रघुनंदन जी के भी बहुत आभारी हैं, जिन्होंने NEP को लेकर डायलॉग और डिस्कशन शुरू करवाने का इतना बड़ा इनिशिएटिव लिया। और ये बहुत खुशी की बात है कि अभी हमारे इस फेसबुक में मेरे ख्याल से more than 1000 people were watching. So in initial I think 20-30 minutes 700 people were watching and later it reached around 2000 people. तो ये एक काफी एनकरेजिंग चीज है कि लोग इसमें काफी इंटरेस्ट ले रहे हैं। और जिस तरह के क्वेश्चंस हमें यहाँ पर सुनने में आ रहे हैं, उससे एक चीज पता चल रही है कि जितने भी हमारे ऑडियंस आए हैं वो भी इस चीज को या तो पहले पढ़कर आ रहे हैं, काफी अच्छे से देखकर आ रहे हैं और इसमें काफी रुचि दिखा रहे हैं और अपनी जिज्ञासा को शांत करने के लिए बहुत अच्छे और महत्वपूर्ण प्रश्न पूछ रहे हैं। तो हम उनके भी बहुत बहुत आभारी हैं जिन्होंने इस प्रोग्राम को रोचक बनाया और बहुत पेशेंस के साथ सुना। तो इसी के साथ हम इस प्रोग्राम को समाप्त करने की आपसे आज्ञा चाहते हैं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। नमस्कार।
Thank you, everyone.
सभी को थैंक यू। नमस्कार।
नमस्कार।
Thank you.